So the first thing is to isolate portions of your character. Like I said, it'd be better to do it all in one piece, but that's not really going to be possible for us. So I'm going to break it down. Like I'm going to do the head, I'm going to do the arm, I'm going to do the torso, I'm going to do the leg, and then I'll do the foot. I'm going to go into faces. And I'm going to just position myself to get a good angle on the head. Make a selection on that head just like that. These are all going to be face selections. Take a look up here because I got excited and didn't set myself up for doing this work. So kind of like rigging, we were using this a lot. In this case, we want to have the UV editor open. What tends to happen with this version of Maya, however, you need to understand is that the UV editor kind of breaks the viewports, and they go black or blank once you open up the UV editor. So if you run into that at any given point, usually we can get through all the UV editor portion of the process, and it's not really an issue that much. But then once you start working, if you find that happening, the best way to deal with that is just to save your work and quit Maya and then open it back up. I've not found any other way to deal with that other than that. So think of that when you're doing this. But look up here. I'm going to change my panels out to perspective UV editor so I can see both at the same time. So in the panels, I'm going to go to Save Layouts. And what I want to do is I want to get to perspective UV editor. So by default, you can see these are the default UV edges. You can see I actually probably still have some edges that are vertices that are off a little. But this is what they look like when they're not mapped. This is why you can't really just texture a character right away, because all the vertices, all the faces are all sitting on top of each other. There's no coherent pattern to that at all. So as we start working on this, you can see that the faces, I have them selected right now. They're actually right here in this UV editor. So these are showing me faces right now. This is also showing me faces, okay? So just notice that as you work here, this view is showing you very, very much what's going on, but you have to remember that this is one kind of math, this is calculus, and this is Cartesian algebra or whatever, right? So if you have a hard time with that, it should be hard, don't you think, right? So see how that works for a little bit. Let's just do it once up here, and you can see me do it, and then I'll go back one more time slower.
So when you did this, you selected the whole thing?
Just the head and the neck, correct. I'm going to try always to select more than I have to, and then if I needed to change something, it's not going to be a problem. I would just add it into another process or another application of the same process. So watch this once and just see how it goes. It's quite forgiving, the process, quite honestly. I have one issue is that if I go into polygons and I go to this unfold, most likely I don't have the plugin for this because I believe this computer always doesn't have it. So just look here, I'm going to show you how to know. When I come to this, you can see that there's no this unfold options. It doesn't give me any other option than just whatever it has here, okay? This is what's called legacy, and there's a new 3D unfold plugin for Maya, which a lot of people don't know about. And I have a lot of students that have been using Maya, don't know that this came out, and they don't know that it's actually gotten a lot way easier to use Maya for unfolding. Most people don't use Maya for unfolding. It's notoriously bad at it, or difficult rather, let's say. So not anymore though. So I'm going to close this because I don't have the plugin. So let's all do this if you don't know. Just go ahead and go to the plugins anyway, just so you can see them. I'm going to go, just try this here. Look up here. I'm going to go to Windows. I'm going to go to Settings and Preferences. And at the bottom of that, there's Plugin Manager. And it's worth it for you guys to know where this is because there are other aspects you might want to do, or if you ever get a plugin, you'll want to know how to use this. A little too zoomed in here. So kind of near the bottom, there's this FBX. No, sorry, that's FBX. That's not what we're doing today. We're doing 3D. Well, now I'm not seeing it. XGen, FBX Maya bundle, Unfold 3D. There we go. Sorry. I find difficult to find the plugins in such a large list, but it's called Unfold 3D bundle. It's kind of near the bottom there of that list, but not really at the very bottom. So if you scroll all the way down, you won't see it. I'm going to put check loaded auto load. I do that because if you are at home, I would choose this, and my computer has this already. I checked auto load for mine because I don't have any other reason not to use this at all. I always want this on, so I'm going to have that on. You do want to hit refresh when you do this. And then I can close this. So there's no save there, it's just refresh. And if you're at home, that will always turn on, but if you're here at school, you'll always have to do that step, right? Every time you turn on a computer. So now if you look at this unfold thing, and again, I'm gonna do this again, so don't worry, I'm just trying to show you all the steps, but now you can see that I no longer have that same dialog box. I have this new Unfold 3D, and then they have the legacy button, which was what we were just looking at, was the legacy, okay? So that's a big problem for a lot of people right there, is not having this on.
Can you say where you are? How you go to that window?
I'm looking at Polygons Unfold, but I'm not using it quite yet. It's in the UV editor. So it's right up in the UV editor, Polygons, and then Unfold. And I'm not actually using it right now. I'm just kind of clicking on it to see that it's there. So here's the process, okay? Sorry, I kind of got excited and started and then had to go back and set up Maya again. But here's the process. I select the faces. I'm going to go to this green button right here. This is called a planar mapping or projection, okay? This creates a projection. I'm not going to talk to you guys very much about these, but maybe later in your life you might want to think about them. I find that the most complex methods for dealing with this kind of work, everyone uses the planar mapping. I've never seen anyone use anything other, unless it's for hard bodies or something. I'm going to click on this. This makes a projection, and you can see the head shape showing up, right? In fact, it actually looks pretty much like a head. Would you guys agree? Looks just like that from the side. Now, we know that that's wrong because this head should be stretched out, right? So what we're seeing here is a distorted representation of the shape in 2D. So then the next step is, next steps, there's really 3 steps. Select, planar map, and then the last thing, just with the selection, polygon unfold. And that's the actual unfolded head right there. And you can see that now when I click here, it's actually pointed towards me. So this is the eyeball, which you can see is actually going this way. But in the UV editor, it's coming towards me. And it's truly flattened, right? And so again, I should expect there to be distortion. It should not look like my character in 3D. It'll look like something else. And I don't know what that'll be, right? To me, it's always a surprise because it's how do you know what that'll look like, right? It's a pretty weird experience. So that's the step. It's really select, planar map, unfold. Then we're going to make a new selection, part of the arms, select, map, unfold. Then we're going to select part of the torso, select, map. And it just kind of goes through step by step. So let's go ahead and do it together. I don't need to delete this. I don't need to change this. I don't have to get rid of it. I don't have to do anything to get rid of these at all. Just remake them. I'm seeing 2 hands come up. What's up?
Just like some
manifold. Does it say something about manifolds and stuff?
Yeah.
Non-manifold geometry. Okay. Let me come out. So some of us are going to have that, some of us aren't, right? So some will come right through, some won't. You can read about non-manifold geometry. You did something here in Cartesian space that you can't do here in UV space, right? And they're just like, math just does not compute, right? Like, we can't do it. There's just certain things that aren't okay. A lot of those are like four-sided faces, or not four-sided faces, so like five-sided faces or n-sided polygons they call those, or sometimes it's too many edge loops coming into one point can cause this issue. There's many different permutations, not many, a couple of them, let's say, of that. Let me show you how to fix that. Now, not all of you will this fix. Some of you, I'm going to have to sit there with you for a while and maybe go through your character. So let me come out into select mode. Again, if you're having that problem, carefully look through your character and just see if there are any extra faces sitting around that you didn't know about. That can cause that issue as well. Sometimes it's a very small problem. But here's what you want to do if you're having the non-manifold issue. Take a look up here. In Mesh, you zoom in, there's Cleanup. It's going to make this a little bit bigger, and you can see that there's one area here in particular that mentions non-manifold geometry, and most of you are having that issue, right? The non-manifold geometry. By checking that for simple issues, just by checking that only, I've gotten people to have it work. Some people that doesn't work, and we have to be a little more like play around with a couple of these. I've had some of those fix them, but not all of them work. Some of them create triangles. There's some issues there. So sometimes by playing with some of those, just the non-manifold, and actually just by fix by tessellation, I've been able to get people through. If that hasn't fixed it, there's almost always something going on with the geometry. There's extra faces somewhere, or something's not connected in a certain way, or there's some oddness in the character. So see if those of you that had that non-manifold geometry, go ahead and check that and click on Cleanup. I'm currently not having the problem, so I don't want to click on it. Fear for my model. Does that make sense? Let's try it again. Let's see who else gets it. So starting over from step one, I have my perspective UV editor are open. I did that with the panels and the save layouts. And then I'm going to now work in faces. And I got myself to a good view in the perspective to make a good marquee selection over half the head. Now the shelf item is called the planar map or projection. We could talk more about projections, but I think in some ways it's not really that necessary to understand them particularly. But this is where they are. They're also up in here in the UVs, right? So there's planar map right here. And you can see there's a lot of information here, and there's a lot to do with this stuff. We're just barely cracking the surface here. So I'm going to click on the planar map, and I get this mapping. And you can move these if you want. You can move them out of the way. They come with a move handle on them. There's also scale. Be careful of that. You don't necessarily want to scale it, although I don't think it would cause a problem, actually. So really, I don't have to move it if I don't want to. It's just I think it helps you guys see what I'm doing. And then the last step is the unfold. So you can go to polygons, unfold like this, or just notice there's also this icon right here, and this is also unfold. So I can just click on this button as well. Now notice that the move handle is offset from the projection. That's not a big deal. If you were to click away and reselect it, you'll notice that the move handle will go right back into the center of that, and you can move these around. So I'm using just regular selections. I notice I can select in the UV editor, do big marquee selection, still using faces. Can use my move tools, my scale tools, my rotate tools. We'll talk more about that. But mostly right now, we're just going to try and get these pieces broken out individually. Okay? So that's head. I'm just going to lay out the arm real quick and show you my method for the arm, and then I'm going to walk around a little bit, okay? On the arm, like we talked about, seams. Where are the seams on a garment? It's kind of a good way to start to think about it. Not an easy selection here to do, okay? So I'm just going to grab as many as I can, and I'm going to focus on the top of the arm, and then I'm going to focus on the bottom of the arm. It can sometimes be a little confusing about what you want to add and what you don't want to add. So if you're in doubt, I would add more. Like include this ring. If you don't like this ring on the shoulder, you could apply it to the chest or something later. And kind of a lot to select on the hand here. This is an awkward shape with the thumb and everything. And usually the arm where the thumb is, the thumb is, that's going to be, you know, a weird bend because we're being a little aggressive maybe. Just really want to be careful about your selections. It's the most common issue people will say to me is, I forgot this face on my thumb right here. Is there a way I could just take this one face and add it to the thing that I forgot, right? That's what most people will try to do. That is super hard. By far the easiest fix to that would be to just select them all and click on planar map and unfold. Done. You could also sit there and move and maneuver these things around, try and connect them and get them in and everything. Super long process. But the most common issue often will be that people forget a face. So that's the top selection of the arm. And then we do the same process again. I'll do planar map. You can see, look at this. Look how crazy this thing is, right? It's looking straight down my arm like this right now. That's what you guys are seeing, is straight down my arm. So that's the shoulder up there, and this is the thumb. These are the fingers pointing at me. And if you look at the plane, you can kind of see the plane. That's the plane's looking in the direction of the arm, right? In the past, they would have had people sit there and play around with this thing and really get wacky with it. But now all we do, we don't even, that's it. That's click once. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Click on the unfold. And if you want, you can move it, but you don't even have to. And there you go, there's an arm. And it's pretty well, that's a pretty good, sorry, I'm like using all these 3D programs, I always freak out on that. That's not a bad unfold, right? It's all the parts are represented and I can see them. Done. So now I can just go through and make new selections. I'm going to give you guys one more thing to think about while you do this and I'm walking around. Try to think about how you can take advantage of selections already. So if you guys look up here, this, in the UV editor, I'm selecting faces. Do you guys see this? It's a huge time saver, okay? Look, I'm going to click away. I don't have those faces selected. Look, now I can select the top of the arm just by doing that. Do you see that? The top of the arm is selected, okay? Now, we haven't talked about too many selective processes in Maya, but most of you know that if you hold shift and you do select type things happen, right? Like you can multiple select and stuff like that. One of the things in Maya is that it'll do an inverse selection. And if you look at select, you'll see that there actually is an inverse. But check this out. If I just hold down shift, let's say these are easy to pick over here, so the hand is really where it takes me time. I'll hold shift, and I'll just drag over, and it just reversed that selection. Do you see that? So I made it really easily over here, and then just reversed it. So now the hand is, I have the exact opposite selection, and then I can hold control and select over that part. And then just add these last little pieces for that ring right there. So if you get used to using your UV editor for selections too, it can be a super huge time saver. I just want you guys to see that. Again, some of you, that's going to be too much to think about. Just make your selections at your speed and don't worry about it. I'll just do the process because it's so easy. I'll just do a planar map, unfold, and move it out. And again, it's not, they don't look identical, the two, right? They're not the same. That's okay. That's just how they unfolded. So we'll work with that, okay? So now next process would be torso, then maybe half the leg, the other half of the leg, and then I'll deal with the foot as a separate piece, right? Just to give you a progression of getting through the rest of the body. So if you're feeling confident, please try to just keep going through the legs and the torsos and stuff like that. When you're getting stuck, let me know. And then I'm going to walk around and get people through the first steps right now. And I'm going to also, let's stop this movie.